Hi, my name is Guitar Man Schilling. That's what I go by on the internet. If you go under YouTube, you look under Guitar Man Schilling, all one word. Schilling is Schillling. If you look me up, you can see some of my videos on YouTube. Got quite a few different variations of originals and covers. And you can see if you even want to go there to check out my site and see if you want me teaching you. But this is basically a free lesson. All these lessons are free. I'm going to try and teach guitarists everything from how to pick out the guitar to, absolutely what they need without wasting money. We're going to go through learning rock guitar in these lessons and rock, blues, the different variations of both. There's many varieties of lead guitar work, rhythm guitar work. I just have to focus on a few. Especially, this is not for the advanced guitarists. This is for beginners. I want to try and pass on some of the things I've learned through the years. And, if I can help some guitarists out there, get going, get their fingers moving, try and understand where they're heading and how lead work is made up, how rhythm guitar is done, and just get them going. They'll find their own way after that point. All people need is usually a basic push, because if they've got it in them to play rock guitar, it won't take them long to sort through what I've taught them, and then how do they really want to sound. They'll go after their favorite guitarists at that point, maybe study them on their own, or maybe just try and come up with mostly all original stuff. That's very hard to do these days, because everybody admires somebody. And they're going to put a little bit of what they learn out of all different types of guitars into their own style, and then create their own. And that's how it's done. That's the way it's been done for the last probably hundreds of years, but at least in the last 50, 60, 70. And you're going to study different guitarists, you're going to put their work together, and you're going to come up with a style of your own. And that's what's going to ultimately happen in the end. Right now, we're going to start with the basics. So what I'd like to do is start by showing you a little bit about a guitar. This is for beginners now. Teach you about a guitar and how to pick out one, and what are the very most important things about a guitar. And let's start with, like, this is a Squier Telecaster. A Squier, the overseas made Fenders are wonderful guitars. I mean, most of them are. They're fairly inexpensive. You can pick them up in pawn shops, or even at regular music stores, at relatively good deals. Don't be surprised if you can't find a nice playing guitar at even a pawn shop or used, whatever, for $100. And it all depends what you want to pay, But regardless, this is a Squier. I bought it for my daughter, this particular one. I like playing Gibsons, and that's what I grew up on. But this is a great playing guitar. There's so many great playing guitars these days. And let's get to the thickest stuff. When you're picking out a guitar, what you want to find, first of all, is something that you like, something you'll feel fairly proud of playing. But we're talking about learning guitar here, so let's not get too tied up on the looks of a guitar. Let's talk about the straightness of the neck. Now, one of the best ways I know to check out a neck, if you're just at a store picking one out, is you look down the neck like this, and you look down this edge and the opposite edge, and they should pretty much be straight as an arrow. A little downward bow, just a little bit, is okay. But you don't want big bows and necks and stuff like that. You want to find a guitar that's got a straight neck. It has a lot to do with the playability. Okay, so most guitars have what's called a truss rod, a steel rod running through the center of the neck. And on this guitar, this truss rod is adjusted up here with an Allen wrench. And you can sometimes take out a bow if a neck is bowed one way or the other, either an under bow or an over bow. You got to watch out playing with these, and I don't want to give you any bad advice, but you can tweak them a little bit. If you find you're having to turn the nut hard while you're trying to adjust the neck to make it go one way or the other, it's not terribly hard to snap a truss rod. Once you snap a truss rod, you've ruined the neck. So I don't want to give you any bad advice. For beginners that don't feel comfortable with adjusting their own truss rods, bring it to a technician at a music store and let them do it. But for the most part, when you're picking out a guitar, it should have a fairly straight neck. Let's just say straight, because guitars have gone so far. Even cheaper guitars have nice straight necks on them. Okay, this is called the nut up here that the strings go across, okay? I found through my years that the distance from the string, underneath the string, to the fret, to the first fret, the little nickel steel fret right there, should be no more than about a 1/16 of an inch. That's very small. If you need to take a look at a ruler to see what that dimension is, but about a 1/16 is a premium dimension. Okay, so if your strings are set there, right there at the first fret, so you can, when you look underneath there, it should be about a 1/16 of an inch between the string and the fret. Up at about the 12th fret, if you count up your frets, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, right up here where they usually have a double dot is the 12th fret. Right there at that 12th fret, you should have a great playing guitar. I'll have somewhere around 1/8 of an inch. You can have 3/16 of an inch. Once you start getting above 3/16, and you're talking about playing the playability of a guitar, you're going to have a guitar that doesn't play so well. And you'll see why later when you start learning lead and you start flying across the neck. And by the way, that won't happen anytime soon, but when it does, you're going to see how useful that playability is. You're going to want a guitar that plays fairly well. Like I said, even inexpensive guitars you can make play very well. So any rate, so once you get that eighth inch dimension, maybe a little bit more between this underneath the string to the steel fret, okay? Once you have that dimension, and once your guitar is set up like that, and you're going to find that you've got a pretty good playing guitar, and it's gonna feel good. Your fingers are going to feel good playing it. Where if you have strings that are set up real high, you're going to find that it's laborious to play, and you're not going to enjoy playing it. You're going to have trouble playing lead work on it. You're going to even have trouble fretting chords on it. I've seen, oh my God, I was at a garage sale the other day. I saw a guitar that must have the strings 3/8 of an inch up off the neck. I thought nobody will ever play that guitar, not set up like that. Not play fast lead work on it anyway. Okay, but let's get through that. I'm going to touch more on setting up a guitar later, but I don't want to overwhelm you with details, about intonation and all that with the adjustable bridge pieces down here on the Fender style bridge. I don't want to get too far into that. We're going to spend too much time on those type of details, because I'm not trying to teach people to be adjusters. I want to teach people how to play guitar. So let's get on with something else. We talked about the type of guitar, what you need. You can go out and spend thousands on a custom, a Gibson, with the flame maple tops, the curly maple tops, and all that. You don't need it. If it makes you feel good and you got the money, buy it. You don't need it. And these little Squire Fenders, made overseas, they're fine. If you choose to buy them, pay more, buy the American versions, all the better. It'll be worth more in the long run. But boy, they're just some marvelous guitars. The Epiphone versions of the Gibsons are marvelous guitars, and most all of them have straight necks these days. So at any rate, yeah, the pickups are a little hotter on from one version to the next, but depending on what brand you're buying. But with the great amps they have these days, with all the distortions and all the amp modeling and the equalization and whatnot, one thing to the next, I can make this Squire Fender right here sound beautiful. Whether I want a clean sound, whether I want to gutsy it up like I'm at a rock concert, regardless, it's going to sound good. It's just a little lead work on here. These guitars sound fine. If it wasn't for the Squire name, any musician would be proud to play this in concert. But of course, the big guys, they like, when they're making good money, hey, it's what they do for a living. They're proud holding those real American USA Fenders and the Gibsons and whatnot. But we're just talking about learning guitar here, so this little guitar is all you need. So at any rate, we're going to take a break for a second here, and we'll get back to the lesson. Okay, so we're going to continue on with this first lesson here. We've talked about the of course, about the guitar neck straightness. We've talked about the string heights, very important stuff. Okay, let's get on with some of the basics. This is just for the beginners now. The basics, you've got generally a lead pickup, what they call a rhythm pickup. The rhythm pickup is more bassy. The lead pickup is a little higher. It has a sharper sound, The bass pickup has a lower tone to it. And so at any rate, that's generally what's on a guitar. Sometimes they have a third pickup in the middle, for, miscellaneous, You can play rhythm on them. You can play lead or rhythm on any of the pickups. It doesn't matter. But you know, and of course the toggle switch back in the back position is for the lead. In the front position is for the you know, in the forward position it's for the bassier sounding pickup. In the middle it's a combination of both of them. Then you have your volume and tone, you know, volume and tone controls for each one. Now, let's get back to just for a second here, let's just touch on this. If you get back to used guitars, if you buy a used guitar and it's been sitting around for a while, this is a common problem, especially on the cheaper guitars. They have a problem with the potentiometers, with the volume and the tone control. That's called the potentiometer underneath. That's the electronics of it. And they get a little scratchy sound, and they've got this very annoying scratchy sound to them. You'll know it when you find one, and it gets amplified through the amplifier. So when you turn the knob, it'll have a really raspy sound. And to get rid of that, typically you have to get into the electronics. This particular cover only has 2 screws on it. You pull it out, you know, pull it out a little bit, turn it over. You'll see 2 slots in the back of these round potentiometers that the volume and tone, you know, knobs are hooked to. And you'll see a little slot in the side. And you spray a little electronic cleaner in it. You can buy electronic cleaner from Radio Shacks or any electronic store usually has it. It's $5 or $6 a can generally, a small can. It lasts forever. You shoot it right in those pots, run the knob back and forth several times, and they generally self-clean at that point. You know, at 95% of the time it'll correct the problem. And on your amp too. You know, if you buy a used amp, it's been sitting around a long time, the knobs haven't been used. Sometimes just by running the knob back and forth many times, they'll self-clean. But sometimes you have to get into your amp and shoot that electronics cleaner into the side of the potentiometer. So that's worked for years, and that's what they sell the cleaner for. That's one of the big reasons they, I guess, made it. But regardless, I've been using it for a long time. Besides that, though, you know, if you need, and by the way, we didn't touch on this, if you need to raise or lower your strings heights, generally it's done like on the Fenders, it's done with a little Allen key, a very small little hex key. They usually give you they give you a set of these when you buy the guitar, and that's for adjusting these little Allen screws in here, up or down. The Fenders have 2, these Tellys have 2 adjusting screws in each saddle, if you will, that the string goes over. And when you adjust those a little one way or the other, it'll bring the string up or down. You'll see it. It won't take you long to understand that. And that's how you get the string heights correct. If they're not correct, the nuts are a little touchier. Let's go back to the nut. If you have to lower your strings, you might want to take your guitar into somebody to have them do it, because these plastic nuts, some of them are bone, regardless, they're easy to snap. Like if you put just a razor blade in there, like one of those triangular razor blades, and you wedge it in there, it's a good chance you're going to snap that plastic off. Sometimes even the bone ones, you'll snap the very end of it off, and then you got a big problem. So you know what? When you're messing around with the string height down there, if you're doing it yourself, be very careful. You know, you might want to get a very small file set and do it with a file, because like I said, if you try and wedge anything in there, you're in for trouble. But that's typically how the strings are raised and lowered. And of course, guitar technicians, they all know that stuff. The guys that adjust these guitars up, they know how to do it for you. So if you run into a bind. But anyway, you need this. So once you get those dimensions I'm talking about correct, well, your guitar is a good playing guitar. You're going to be happy. You're going to be happy playing on it, you know, learning stuff on it. It's going to feel good to you. It's very important. So anyway, let's, I think what we're going to do is we're going to call it the end of this lesson here. Let's touch on tuning keys 1 second before we get out of here, though. And that's you know, most tuning keys these days are of a good grade. They're all a closed back. They're packed with grease. They're either like these or Gotos. That's G-O-T-O-H. You can buy, you know, some of them have their own name stamped on them, you know, whether it's Gibson or Fender. But regardless, closed back, grease pack type, they're all good keys. You know, the Schallers, I'm forgetting some of the names, but the more popular names. It's irrelevant, though. Most keys are of a decent grade these days. If you can buy the grease pack ones, which are all enclosed, rather than the open gear type, I'd suggest it. Not always true, but a lot of the times true. Okay, so the closed back grease pack gearing is good. They all have a screw in the end there, right where the tuning key is. And you'll notice that when you loosen that screw, the tuning key will get really sloppy. If you tighten it, it'll be too tight to turn. It's that fine point in the middle that makes them feel good to tune, and there should just be a little resistance, not a lot and not too little. So you'll get the feel of it if you start playing with those yourself. But If you find one of your tuning keys, if on a used guitar especially, if it doesn't tune up or falls out of tune, you might check the end of that screw right there and give it a little tweak one way or the other, tighten the key up a little bit. But at any rate, that's the basics of guitar. We could spend a long time on guitar adjusting, you know, fret following and all that biz. I might do a video on that sometime, but that'll be an in-depth one, because you got to make sure to give the instructions out correctly. You don't want anybody ruining their guitar, and I'll have to think about that one. But regardless, that's a good start on how to pick out a guitar, and especially how to pick out a guitar and not spend a lot of money. So I hope that helped you out, and next lesson will be number 2. So let's stop here for now.